Welcome to the Burgundy and Gold Knuckleheads podcast. As always, you know who's riding shotgun. It's my main man, Reggie. What's going on, Reg?
What's going on, Ken? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. We're down to like 30 days or less to kick off. I
Man,
guess under 30 days now, right?
yeah, man. I mean, it's been a while since we've been on, but we're back, and but yeah, the season is fast approaching, man. I mean, in a hurry, and I couldn't be more excited about it. This off season can be long.
Yeah.
We kind of get really excited about little things that means absolutely nothing
Right.
in the big scheme for the upcoming season, but because it's something related to the football and to our favorite team, and we seem to get a little excited about it. But we're in training camp, man, and it's real now. It's real.
Yeah. To me, and full disclosure, I've been extremely busy. Um, really for the month of July. I mean, here we're in August, but the month of July and the first week of August, I've been extremely busy. I've been away from home probably more than I've been at home. Just to open up the window there a little bit and tell you how busy I've been. But it seemed like excitement like the first day or two, but then now there's like even a little bit of lull. You don't hear anything. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like a little bit of just complacency. But when they play the Jets and everybody gets to, overanalyze a preseason game, man, I think at that point it's really gonna kick up, right? You got all these rookies, the head coaches and coordinators, and I mean everybody is going to be overanalyzed on a preseason game, and it's only going to ramp up higher as we get to week one.
It will, and fans. I can't speak to all fans, but I know our fans, man. We get excited and get emotional about the little things, and so
Yes.
so to your point, I think that the preseason game, regardless of how it goes, whether we look good or we look bad, there's going to be this overreaction. Um, but for gray-haired guys like ourselves, we've seen a few preseasons, right? We've seen a few training camps, right? We've seen superstars of training camps. We've seen superstars of preseason. And it's not to say that you shouldn't get excited about these things, but we know that none of it means anything come regular season, right? We've seen guys just ball out in training camp.
Oh yeah.
We've seen guys just balling out during the preseason. But when it counts, these guys are nowhere to be found. A year later, they're out of the league. They can't get on the field. So, although for me, preseason is just one more step closer to the regular season, and you want to see obviously your draft picks and free agents look competent, if you will.
Right.
They want to look like they belong, look like the front office made good decisions when they paid this guy some money or they drafted this guy. But I still am not going to get overly excited about the preseason because, again, no one is game planning, right? There's no game plan by Washington, and certainly the Jets won't be game planning for us. And so it's cool. Like I say, I'm more excited that it's one more step closer to the regular season.
I think, and I don't disagree with you. I think, year in, year out, the number one thing that we say we want to see in every preseason game is walking away with no major injuries. Right.
Correct.
Number two, when you see your players doing well, tap the brakes, right? Tap the brakes a little bit. Because exactly all the points that you just made, this is very vanilla. You don't know who they're going up against. I mean, if you're going up against a veteran, the veteran, not that he wants to slack around, but he knows the difference between preseason and a rookie his first preseason, the rookie wants to go full tilt. He feels like he still has to prove anything, even if he's a first round pick, second round pick. The 7-year veteran, he's like, all right, I'm playing here, but I don't need to go crazy. The concerning part is if you have a player that you have high aspirations for, and they just lay a big thud and do nothing, right? If you have a quarterback who looks bad through the entire preseason, I'm not saying they got to look good, but they just look bad, probably doesn't mean a whole lot for the season coming up.
Correct.
People don't get better, but sometimes they're overhyped. So we'll see. We'll see how much people play. I know rookie has been named the starting quarterback, right? Or at least the starting quarterback for week 1. Not that that's a big surprise, but Jayden Daniels is supposed to be starting. He's going to be excited. He's happy about it.
Yeah. If you're watching us on YouTube, you see a big smiling picture of the one Jayden Daniels, number 5 in the program, number 1 in our hearts, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, all the reports that are coming out is that he's doing the right things. And again, pump the brakes. We've seen rookies look good before. We've seen this before, right? I'm going to take some of our fans back. If you've been around long enough, we remember 2012, the RG3 year, right? And look where that got us. I understand there was injuries and some other things, but we thought we had our guy for the next decade, and that didn't quite work out. So, but Jayden, from all reports, have been shining in camp. He's been coming in, continuing to come in early. Cliff made a point in his press conference just the other day with the Washington media. And he talked about when he comes in to set in the game plan that Jayden's already on board with the game plan. So he talks about the guy must be studying all night long because he already knows what's happening with the playbook at this point. And these are all positive signs. Right. And as our friend of the show, John Keim, would say, none of this means anything for his success, but you certainly can't have success if you're not doing these little things, right? And so he's at least doing all the little things to set himself up to have success in the league. And so all the things that he was doing in coming out of LSU, he's doing it in training camp. He's, got the players, got the veterans. He's earned it. He's earned it. And so surprised that he's QB1? No. But at the same time, they're making him earn it. And I got no problem with that.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, he's doing everything that he can to lead, right? To learn and lead. He's getting there to your point of what you commented. He's getting there in time and putting in the film time, right? He's not just showing up and goofing off and doing whatever. He's there with the coaches when the other players aren't even there. He's spending time in the film room, learning the plays, it's not just the plays, it's the verbiage, and getting to the point where the terminology and phrases they're using actually becomes, you're fluent in another language. That's really what it is, especially from a quarterback perspective. You're fluent in another language, and where everybody's going to be. It's one thing to map it out, or to whiteboard it, and I know this guy's going here, there. Now put you on the field, and it's real time, and where everybody's supposed to be. When you look to your left and you look to the right, that player is going to be exactly where you're looking because where they're supposed to be. I mean, obviously the receivers need to know the plays as well, but that's where quarterbacks start getting successful, when they don't have to think, they just do.
Well, they've already said that he's going to play. Where are you in the camp on that? Do you think he should play? You think they should
absolutely
hold him out a little bit?
No, absolutely. I think.
Do you think he should play?
I think for the first couple years, we should be playing him as much as we feel comfortable with. I mean, if you're going to guarantee me he's not going to get injured at all, I'd want him to play the entire game because
Well,
it's just that
that's not
experience,
realistic though,
right?
right?
I understand. I understand. But I've got no problem with him playing. We don't play 4 games anymore. We play 3. I've got no problem with him playing minimum 1 quarter every single game. While I'm not trying to get him hurt, I also recognize that he needs the time. Whether he gets hurt in training camp by some fluke play, or it's the 4th play of the game of week 1, like Aaron Rodgers did, you just don't know. You can't plan for those things. You don't know they're going to happen. Aaron Rodgers didn't hardly play anything in the preseason last year. Week 1, 4th play, he's out for the season. So he's a rookie. He needs to play. He needs live experience. It's not the same as training camp. I don't care how much you tell me it is. It's not. Players will consistently tell you it's not.
Oh, I'm not going to tell you.
No. But some people, oh man, all the reps he's getting in training camp, it's not the same. So again, I'm for him playing at least a quarter in every single game. I mean, Sam Howell did it last year. Different coaches. He played, I think week 2 he played or preseason game 2. I think he played up almost the entire first half. I've got no problem with Jayden Daniels doing that either. There's a lot of new moving parts. So it's not just Jayden Daniels. It is the offensive line working together for an extended amount of time. It's the wide receivers working with them. It's, Ertz. It's the whole offense. I mean, we're talking right now, we have 90 players in training camp, and I believe 66 of them are new. Right? 66 out of 90 are learning this, are totally new to the team, and everybody is new to this offensive scheme. Everybody is new to the defensive scheme. So you need the playing time.
Well, I will say this. I know that the 3rd preseason starters aren't going to play, so I don't want to see Jayden Daniels playing in the 3rd preseason game. The first 2, get him some reps, man. Absolutely. I think he should be thrown in there and kind of get some reps. But again, practice is different than even preseason game. So these guys aren't really ready to be there, whether that's on the defensive side or the offensive line, there's a little bit of that too. And so I don't think these guys should play more than a quarter or a half. But that's about the extent I think they should play. But I don't want to see them in the 3rd preseason game because most teams aren't playing their starters. And I'm pretty sure Washington won't be either. And I don't want Jayden Daniels specifically playing behind 2nd, maybe 3rd string, and even some practice squad guys who probably won't be on the team come week 1. And I don't want to see him behind those guys on a 3rd meaningless preseason game. But the first 2,
disagree. Yeah.
The first 2, get him some reps.
Yeah. I want Jayden Daniels 100% to play only with first team. Right. Maybe a second team player here and there, but if you're putting in second team majority or a majority 3rd team, he should not be on the field at all. And I agree with that totally. But talking about first team, second team, there's and all the changes. There's been a surprise cut or 2.
Yes.
I don't know about for you, but while they weren't necessarily going to be full impact players, I think that some fans thought that they would be contributors, I'll say. And I'll start off with Amari Rodgers. That
was a little shocker to me. I'm not upset about it like some fans are on social media, but I'm a little surprised because they talked about the potential with this guy. And so if nothing else, I thought he'd continue to be on the team, practice squad minimum, or just starting roster as a backup tight end. Right. But the fact that they released him was a little bit surprising to me, if I'm being honest.
It was a little bit of a surprise, and I moved on. And I'm just going to be honest. Right now, you've got Ertz, you've got the rookie
Senate.
Sanant, you still have John Bates, you still got Cole Turner.
Who's not
So
showing up? Cole Turner. I mean, we don't know anything about Cole Turner.
I don't disagree, but I'm saying we don't. I mean, you say the same thing about Amari Rodgers, right? You say everything about the tight ends, for the past, at least last year. Logan Thomas, we had high hopes that he was going to be rebound and have a solid year, and he didn't.
But yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
I like, oh, okay, wow, I'm a little shocked by that, and can't say I thought a whole lot more about it.
Yeah.
Dax Mill, right? The other
Yep.
guy. Again, not surprised by it, but it just kind of like, okay. And then just kept it moving.
Yeah, I would have thought that he would have stuck around a little longer. Even if I'm not surprised necessarily that he got cut, but I thought he would have made it. I mean, he really didn't even make it to training camp, right? And so again, I'm surprised that he didn't make it at least to the first round and then get cut at that point. But they decided they like what they have in camp better than him to even be a body in camp. So it is what it is.
The other guys, I certainly was just some names that, but none of them stood out to me.
Yeah.
Or none that was of any significance. But those two were probably the big kind of got my attention type of a release, if you will. But at the same time, as they, releasing 2 pass catchers, are we going after BA? Is that what they're clearing?
Yeah, clearing salary.
But for those who are wondering, I'm talking about Brandon Aiyuk, and we already know the big news of the day is that the 49ers are actually finally listening to some trade offers, and there was 4 teams rumored to be involved, which was Pittsburgh, the Browns, the Patriots, and Washington. And it seems like as quickly as the news came out that there was 4 teams that inquired, had some interest, Washington quickly bowed out of the race.
Right.
And since that has happened, New England has supposedly bowed out of the race. And it leaves Cleveland and Pittsburgh. But yeah, I don't know. And I'm not. I'll just say this little bit about Brandon Aiyuk. Would I love to have Brandon Aiyuk on my team, on our team specifically? Absolutely. But to get Brandon Aiyuk, you're going to have to give up a good player, and more than likely that will be someone like Terry. And then you're gonna have to pay Brandon Aiyuk, damn near $30 million a year. I'd rather just keep Terry for that at this point, because he's already under contract, and I know he'll be due up a contract soon. But we're probably a year away from Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk is a year too soon for us, I think. And
I agree.
And so with that, I'm okay with us walking away and just letting this deal play out, because I unlike some fans, I still trust in Adam Peters. And of all the 4 teams that were involved in this deal, Adam Peters had a hand in bringing Brandon Aiyuk to San Francisco when he was in San Francisco, and he knows the player.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that the guy's not worthy, but he knows enough to say, not right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay. I'm okay with the decision.
Yeah, and I think that's key. Is we've talked about this in the early on when the rumors were first floating around, and he was letting people know that he might be interested. He wasn't demanding a trade quite yet, but everybody knew that he was interested.
Right.
And I said he doesn't add that much to the team this year. Yes, he adds to the team. Don't get me wrong, but what you're going to have to give up for him, both in player and draft picks, is too much for this year. I'll be interested to see what San Francisco gets. they tend to be pretty good at being on the positive side when they make these kinds of moves. And what they give us for Trent Williams? I understand the situation was different, but they basically gave us a 5th round pick and a couple tacos,
and a 3rd round for Chase.
Yeah. So they tend to do well on that side. And look, Brandon's going to do very well wherever team he gets. He's going to go to some team catching touchdowns, and the people that want him here are going to go, see, that could be Washington. That could be Washington. Not necessarily. Not that he wouldn't be successful here, but the level of success this coming year, I don't know how high he would be here with Washington.
Another report coming out of training camp is the continual transition of Jamin Davis as an edge rusher. Reports are it's not going well.
Yeah.
I ain't going to say what your boy predicted. It was a terrible idea in a contract year for him to be trying to transition to a position that he has no history of playing.
Right.
But they're talking about making him a situational pass rusher. Look, man, if I'm Jamin Davis, I'm trying to get paid. I'm not trying to get paid as a part-time pass rusher, right? He's been a starter since he's been in Washington. He's been a linebacker since he's been in Washington. And if he's a linebacker that has the ability to rush the passer, that's one thing. But you're trying to put him as a situational pass rusher. That's Dante. That's a younger version of Dante Fowler.
Well, I think, yeah.
And I'm like, at the end of the day, this ain't going well, just like I thought it wouldn't be. I just don't think everybody can just transition from one position to another and just be easy.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think I think there's still time for him to find his role, as well as the coaches finding a role for him. I mean, he has talent. It's just a matter of how are you going to use it? Some of the talent he has works well at defensive end, but doesn't work well at linebacker. And you can reverse that. There's things that work well at linebacker that doesn't work well at tight end. So it's a matter of using these roles, and we'll see what happens. But and we talk about getting paid. No matter what role he goes to, even if he gets cut, it's going to be a challenge for him to get paid either way. If he's a linebacker and he's performed like he has the last few years, he'll probably get a contract, but he's not going to get anything major, And if he's a mediocre defensive end, a very average defensive end, I mean, there's a role on Washington being an average defensive end if you're rotating people in, putting pressures here and there. I mean, we had a couple people, not Turner. Trying to think of F.A. Obata is one. He's not an everyday starter, but he's had some impacts when he's been playing. Can Jamin Davis do that or more? I think he can. We'll see. Time will tell.
You're talking about, we're not talking about you drafting a guy and as a rookie in his second year, he's working to change position. We're talking about a guy who's going through his 5th year, who's a 1st-round pick. He's not trying to just be a okay guy, okay pass rusher, right? In a contract year, he's trying to get in the best position to maximize his payout. This might be the one and only big payout he gets, right? Over the next 3-4 years. And so the best chance for me to get the most money, I'm not saying he needs to be a break the bank kind of payday, but the best chance for me to get that is where I can be successful. He's changing positions in a contract year in hopes that he can be an average or above average pass rusher. I don't think it's going to work out. So he's not even going to get a chance to even maximize his payout in a contract year.
Reggie, he's not going to maximize it anywhere. Where's he going to maximize? He's not going to maximize it at linebacker.
Okay. Let me ask you this then. We all think that the secondary is going to be better. Why? Because of the coaching staff that was assembled and what they've done in their history. So
Who said
there's
that?
already
Who's when you say we it
I'm
doesn't include your
generalizing.
partner
I'm
here.
generalizing what people are saying.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So Joe Witt and Dan Quinn, their secondaries and their defense looks a certain kind of way. We expect to get more turnovers. We expect to play a certain kind of way, all based on history and where they've been. Right. We're expecting the style of defense that they play. That guys like our linebackers and even our defensive tackles are going to look better in this offense, in this defense, than they have in years past. So if that's the case, then if I'm Jamin Davis, then I need to be where that is. Well, where that is that linebacker. He's not playing linebacker. So he's not even going to be given the chance to maximize his earning potential going into a contract year. I'm not saying that he's going to break the bank, but that's just like if all of a sudden Emmanuel Forbes is all of a sudden gets asked to be safety, something he's never played, but yet their defense is known to have cornerbacks get a lot of picks, which that's what Emmanuel Forbes is known to do. So people are thinking he might look much better in this defense. St. Juice is going to look much better in this defense. Jamin Davis, he's not going to look good in this defense simply because he's not a true edge rusher. They're asking him because he's big and fast to be in a situation, passing downs essentially, where there's a third and long probably, and you use your speed and go get the quarterback.
Well,
man, that's very situational. And then if guys who play in situations don't get paid.
Look, Rivera and crew have had a history all the way along of trying to be cute with their number one draft picks.
Correct.
Nobody has lived up to a number one draft pick. Jamin Davis didn't. You just mentioned Emmanuel Forbes is a bust. He didn't live up to it.
He's not a bust. Come on.
I was going to say, what's
his
name?
John Dotson.
What's that?
Jahan Dotson.
Josh Dotson. Jahan hasn't lived up to a number one. I'm not saying he's a bust, but he's certainly not a number one wide receiver. Hasn't performed. Yet. What's that?
Not yet.
That I want to say the same thing about Jamin Davis. Not yet. Right. I mean, I can throw that out anywhere.
You can, but the difference is one guy is going to be going into his third year, and one that's going into his fifth year. Right. I mean, it makes a difference. If this was Jamin Davis's second or third year making his transition, I'd be like, hey, cool, man. And he's got a couple years to get this down packed and hopefully have some success. I'm just simply talking about the timing of this transition. That's all I'm getting at.
And I don't disagree. I just think, obviously the coaches, he hasn't had success at linebacker in Washington. You can blame him. You can blame the coaches. You can blame the combination, right? And on tape, the head coach, and defensive coordinator who've had a lot of success with linebackers, everywhere that they've gone, looked at film and tape and decided he's not a linebacker. So you got to trust their evaluation on him, but they saw something they thought maybe he could be a defensive end. Maybe he can't. I'm not saying he can't. He can or can't. But he's not making the team as a linebacker. That's basically what they said. You are not making the team as a linebacker. If you're going to make the team, it's going to be as a defensive end. Talking about busts or not busts, I mentioned Emmanuel Forbes. Did you see the comment that defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. came out with talking about Emmanuel Forbes?
What did he say?
Well, he complimented him because for those that don't know, Emmanuel Forbes worked hard in the offseason and gained 17 pounds. That he basically doubled his weight just about. When you take away the bones and the skin, he doubled.
Come on, man.
He doubled his muscle. Maybe more than that.
Get on with it. Stop dogging that young man.
Well, I mean, he was what, 165?
We all know he was skinny, Ken. Come on.
Okay, but
What?
I'm saying there's a huge difference in the NFL between a $165 and even a $180.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure this is not what Joe Witt was talking about, but go ahead.
Well, I will read his comment and let you make a comment before I do on it.
All
It
right.
says, first of all, Emmanuel's been working extremely hard to get off the field stuff from his weight up. I was very pleased with the way he came into shape, gained weight, and then his availability. Oh, his availability's been there, and now he's with Jason Simmons, the defensive pass coordinator, and just learning the finer details of how to be an excellent professional corner. He goes on. And so things that he needs to improve on, we'll talk to him about that, about that in the building. I don't talk about that in these venues, but I've been pleased with the way he's been working.
Okay. No news here.
You know what he didn't say? He didn't say anything
news.
about his playing, about his performance, about everything. You can work hard. There's a lot of guys that work harder than anybody and get cut.
Ken, listen. I'm disappointed in you right now.
That's off-season coach talk where they don't want to talk bad about any player. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you now.
No. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna tell you my thoughts on that. Those are your thoughts. Let me give you mine.
Go ahead.
I heard some of that press conference, and the question that they asked him about how Emmanuel Forbes struggled last season, and they asked him about him this year, and there's things that he could work on to get better. And Joe Witt's response was, we don't basically talk about those things publicly. And he went on to talk about, we'll talk about anything that I want him to do and he went on to praise him in the way in which you did. He talked about him working. He talked about the weight, being good on and off the field and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't want to engage in anything from a negative standpoint. He didn't say there's a list of things, but I'm only going to talk to him about. He just said those things I will discuss with him privately. He could have asked that of any other player. You could have changed the name of the player, and I think the response would have been the same. I'm not going to talk about negative things here in this forum. I will talk about those privately. It's just that you think he's a bust, so therefore those comments were about him not being a good player or having a good camp. I didn't take it that way. I simply thought of it as just, I'm not going to talk about family business in front of strangers. And anything I want to tell him, I will tell him privately. But up to this point, he's doing fine. That was the way I interpreted his response.
Okay. They have also talked about linebacker Frankie Lavu, right? When they talk about him, they talked about him completely different. They talk about him flying around the field. They talk about him on the field, how he's performing. They don't have to talk about, oh, he's working hard. He's working hard. He's showing up on time. They don't have to come up with generic things. They talk about how he is performing on the field. They make no comments at all about Emmanuel Forbes performing on the field during practice. And that's why on the initial what do you call it? Depth chart. He's not on a starter on the depth chart. And I'm going to say he's not going to be a starter week 1.
I'm going to say two things and then I'm going to zip it.
Okay.
You're comparing a rookie or essentially a second-year player who struggled as a rookie to a guy that's been in the league 7 years and was one of our prize. Hold on, let me finish.
Go ahead.
And you're comparing him to one of our prize free agent acquisitions who's been in the league 7 years as a veteran. Of course, they're going to praise the guy they spent $30 million on compared to a guy who's coming off his rookie year. Joe Witt is smart enough to know that the press was asking something for clickbait about a young player, and there was no way he was going to get in and talk about the negative of that player in front of the media. Now, in terms of the depth chart thing, Dan Quinn said it. He said the PR team put the depth chart together. He said, but don't read into it. He says a lot of the stuff that you see is kind of the way practice has been going. So the guys that are going to start, the guys that are listed as your number one guy, is because they was probably going first in doing training camp. And so to me, he said, don't put any stock in it. He said, because all of that's most of that will probably change.
Sure.
So the fact that Emmanuel Forbes is listed as the third corner, I didn't put a whole lot of stock in it.
That's honestly not my concern. I'll use two examples. We are hearing how well on the field Brandon Coleman is playing, rookie from TSU. We're hearing how well second year player who struggled at the beginning of last year, Quan Martin, right? We're hearing these guys, how well they're performing on the field. You're not hearing that about Emmanuel Forbes for a reason. And I'm not, maybe he's going to end up doing well, but normally a coach is specifically, if you're doing well, he's going to praise you. He's going to publicly praise you for your confidence. Okay. And the fact that Joe Witt did none of that is reading between the lines. And that's not just Joe Witt. That's pretty much through all of camp. I've not heard anything other than how well he's working, how hard he's working. He's put on some weight. Hell, I put on a couple pounds this off season myself, but nobody's giving me praise for it,
Well, apparently you didn't double your weight.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Double your weight. Then you get talked about. So that's how that is. The other thing that has kind of come out of camp is obviously the rule change with the kickoff, right? Yep. And so we have guys that would normally not be on special teams or practicing and being looked at for special teams, whether that's the guys that are going to do blocking, but also the guys that are returning kickoffs. They got Austin Eckler, Emmanuel Forbes is back there, along with Kaz Allen, which was a name that I thought that we would never hear again. Not because he wasn't a good player, it's just he wasn't going to be a good contributor. But then all of a sudden, the rule change, and now say he might be an asset to special teams.
Right.
So you have these guys that are out here and they're trying some new things because of this different rule change. I got to see it play out during the Hall of Fame game with the Bears in Houston, and needless to say, I kind of like it. I actually kind of like it, man. It's different, and because they said that, with the old way of doing it, only 21% of kickoffs were being returned, and so this new rule change will essentially force teams or encourage teams to run the ball back, and so I think we're going to see a much greater percentage of kickoffs being attempted to be ran back during the game. And so for that, I like it because we all knew, man, when a touchdown or a field goal was made, you can go to the bathroom, take a bathroom break because they're going to go to commercial. Right. Then they're going to come back. They're going to kick the ball off. They're going to let it go out the back of the end zone. They're going to go to commercial again before the offense comes on the field. So you had time to go and get a good bathroom break. So whereas now, hey, man, they might run this back. You better sit down.
Well, and because they're not coming down the field at full speed, it wouldn't surprise me if some teams use players as return guys that they might not normally do because they're not going to absorb that potentially fierce impact, right? Like Sean Taylor used to laid some people out in those types of situations at full speed. And I know this sounds kind of ridiculous, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like Jahan Dotson, who's done punt returns, could potentially his shiftiness and his speed could be an asset because you only have to get through a layer or two, and then it's a foot race, right? To where before with a whole team coming down, there was layers and how it was almost a fan effect of how teams would migrate to one side or the other, but they would be stacked. So you had to get through 2 or 3 players, then 2 or 3 players, then 2 or 3 players. Yes, sometimes there were some holes or whatever, but that was normally because of broken down coverage. So like I said, I could see somebody like Jahan Dotson making an impact, but we'll see. And not just for Washington, but for other teams, some people that maybe didn't do kickoff returns in the past going, hold on, so we've got a good tool here, and the risk reward for injury is a lot lower now than what it used to be.
Yeah, and absolutely. And that's why I think they're trying some guys out as kickoff guys that wouldn't normally be back fielding punts, or I'm sorry, fielding kickoffs in years past. So, but I guess the only other thing, man, is we have to look forward to is this week we're doing our joint practice with the Jets, and I actually quickly forgot about the connection with Saleh being in San Francisco, and then of course Adam Peters was there, and if I remember correctly, there's a connection between Dan Quinn and Saleh when they were in Seattle. So being able to discuss with them to have a joint practice before they play the preseason game, now it all makes sense, right? That they were willing to do that on both sides. So I'm very interested to see how that works out. The number one thing is I hope that we come out healthy, that there's no major injuries on this game, man. But I hope that we also see that the work that these guys have been putting in all year, but primarily the past few weeks of training camp, that it looks good out there, man. I hope we see some guys that look like year 2, year 3 in this case of, Jahan Dotson and Emmanuel Forbes. Certainly see Jayden Daniels looking good. And, I like to see a guy like Fedarian Mathis, right? Big Phil has had injury after injury, and I hope that this will be the year that he can get on the field and kind of show why he was a second round pick. And the guy was a stud player at Alabama, man. I mean, I don't think he's a bust, but this is a league, man. You got to show me,
right?
And unfortunately, he's not been able to show anything. So for his sake, I hope that he can show why he was drafted in the second round, and it wasn't that Ron and company overreached, as you say they like to do. And hopefully they didn't reach for a guy in the second round.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been some might call critical of somebody like Jahan Dotson, but I've tried to be realistic. He hasn't been the impact that we needed, right? I think he has a ton of talent. I see it there, and we'll find out if it was, a quarterback / coaching issue. I hope it is, because if he can be the player that we've seen moments of, or little stretches of, and you add him to Terry and the rest of this offense, and he will have a huge impact to the production of this offense. And that goes for other players. That goes for the Quan Martin. Hey, I would love to eat my words on the air for years to come about Emmanuel Forbes.
I don't believe you.
I would.
I don't
you wouldn't let me. Everybody knows Reggie wouldn't let me live it down.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
I'd be in my wheelchair.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
I would say it to you, so I don't know why you wouldn't say it to me, Carson Wentz. But again, I think that I have confidence that this coaching staff will bring the best out of these guys. If Jamin Davis doesn't make the team, if he gets cut, it's because he was not going to be that guy, right? If halfway through the year, 3/4 of the way through the year, Dotson, Jahan is an average wide receiver, that's probably what he's going to continue to be. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it's the confidence that I have in these coaches to put these players in the best situation possible. So
All right. Well, let me just ask you this then.
go ahead.
You're very, very bullish on your thoughts on Emmanuel Forbes.
Yes.
So in this particular case, I don't want the hypotheticals
Okay.
because I don't want to. Well, if this and no hypotheticals. Year 3, Jahan Dotson. Do you think he's going to be more like the player we saw last year as a second-year player, or more like the guy we saw in his rookie year before he got hurt? What do you think?
I want to give the guy. I've seen flashes. Okay, the difference between him and Forbes, I haven't seen any in Washington wearing burgundy and gold. I've seen no flashes from Emmanuel Forbes.
Okay.
Dotson, I've seen plenty. Right, I've seen in it when he gets open the balls to him. He's a shifty little little guy out there. I say little, he's probably bigger than me, but compared to everybody else, he looks little. But man, the guy is tough. Why he hasn't had the success from when they isolate and I see him, I don't know. And so I don't want to put it all.
I had the
I
Jeopardy.
will raise my hand and say I don't want to put it all on him, but we need more. However, we get more, whether it's the coaches, whether it's the quarterback, whether it's
That's not the question.
Jahan himself, a combination of all three. We need another wide receiver to be a stud.
But that wasn't the question. The question is, based on
Closer
your,
to-
is he going to be the guy?
I'm going to say better than year one. We will see this year.
So you think he's going to be more like the guy we saw early in the rookie season, where we were all excited? He's catching
Correct.
touchdowns.
The first 4 or 5 games, yes.
Okay.
And we'll see it for a full season or better than that.
Okay.
And if we don't, I'm going to jump off that bandwagon real quick, man. Real quick. I'm saying we're wrong because we were wrong. There's very few people. I'm probably his harshest critic, and I'm not that hard on him. Right.
I guess we just see things differently, man. I listen, he can still have a good productive year, and it's just the role that he plays. Not many teams have 2 number 1 receivers on their team, right? So Jahan Dotson being a productive receiver may not look like what some people might think that it's going to be. It's just that he's good for our system and what his role is. So for me, I don't think he's going to be nowhere near the guy we saw last year. I think he's going to be more like the guy we saw in his rookie year, and if not better. But that doesn't mean that he's going to get 1,200 yards receiving and a ton of touchdowns. But I just think he's going to be a major impact player on our team and heavily involved in our offense. And somebody when they play the Commanders, that they're going to have to game plan for Terry, game plan for Jahan Dotson, right? And what that looks like from a statistical standpoint, I don't know. Right. But he's going to be a guy that we're going to be saying when he's due for his contract, we need to re-sign him. That's what I think we is. So I think he's going to be a bounce back player for us this year.
Yeah. I think he needs to be above average number 2 wide receiver. He doesn't need to be a number 1. I would love for him to be there, but he needs to be above average number 2 wide receiver. And production wise, he's barely been a number 3 wide receiver while he's been in Washington.
Well, that's most everybody.
For whatever reason. I'm not even going to try and pin it anywhere. But he's barely been a number 3 wide receiver since he's been here. And that's part of the problem overall with Washington and their offense. We could go down the list. We don't need to right now, but I think blue skies are coming our way, and for Jahan as well.
I love it. I love it.
You got anything else, my man?
That's it, man. We're back. Just want to say we're getting back into the swing of things. Season coming up, and we're gonna be back bringing these a little more frequently for you. And man, we have to give a season prediction and all of the good stuff that will be coming your way from the Knucklehead. So I got nothing else, Ken. Unless you got something, man, we can shut it down and tell folks good night.
Yeah, we'll we should probably be back just from a schedule perspective at least once a week moving forward. As the season goes, normally we're on at least twice a week, looking forward to the game coming up, as well as a recap of what we liked or what concerned us about the previous week. So yeah, stay tuned. Reach out to us on Twitter as always, and until next time, peace out,
Peace out.
knuckleheads.
Peace out, y'all.